Alright, so in today's demonstration we're going to be making Eggs Benedict. Eggs Benedict consists of poached eggs, Hollandaise sauce and a lovely bread to put it on. So the first thing we're going to be doing is making our Hollandaise sauce. So the parts of that Hollandaise sauce involves clarifying butter, making an emulsion of an egg and a vinegar mixture, and a reduction of the vinegar for that emulsion. Then we'll be adding clarified butter to our egg emulsion, making a beautiful, tasty Hollandaise sauce. So with all of our practicals, we start by gathering our ingredients first. So for our Hollandaise sauce, we have our solid butter, which I'm going to clarify. We have a vinegar mixture here of it's 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, just with a sprig of thyme in there for flavour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce that by a half over heat. And I have 4 egg yolks, which will be the body of my Hollandaise sauce. For the Benedict itself, Benedict consists of ham, which I'll be frying, 2 eggs, which I will poach, some baby spinach here, which I will wilt. I have my bread, and I have just a bit of garnish, which is some chives. So the first part of my Hollandaise sauce is to clarify the butter. Now, clarified butter is to separate the milk solids and the fat. So what I'll do is I'll take my butter and I'll place it into a small saucepan over a very low heat. I do not want my butter to boil. I just want it to melt very slowly. So as it melts, the fat separates from the milk solids. The milk solids are a white part of the butter. They'll actually sink to the bottom. The fat, which I want to use, which is also called ghee, will rise to the surface, so I will skim and take that ghee as my clarified butter. There'll also be a few milk solids that may float to the surface, which I will skim off with my ladle just to remove. So what I'll be left with is a perfect, very brightly intense yellow ghee, which is a pure clarified butter used for my Hollandaise sauce. So I'll just lower the Okay, so I'm now going to gently remove all those milk solids which have risen to the top just by inserting my ladle, creating a small whirl and just skimming those into the ladle, letting those just get sucked into there. Now for a perfect clarified butter, you do want to get rid of as much of this floating solid as you can, because it is an impurity. You can see it there. Just pour that into my bowl. I'll make it easier for myself to use a smaller spoon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually pour that clarified butter skim off those last bits of floating ghee. Sorry, way. Okay, so as you can see in the pan, you can see the white milk solid that is sticking to the base of the pan. That is what I'll leave behind. That is what I do not want. And I've got the nice clarified butter which has risen to the surface. So I'm just going to gently pour that into my container. And you can see how golden that melted butter is once those milk solids have been removed from it. And you can now start to see the density of the milk solids left behind. You can see that white milk solid, obviously the colour of milk, that I do not want. So what I'm now left with is a beautiful golden ghee or clarified butter. So the next stage of my hollandaise sauce is to create a reduction. Now the reduction consists of 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Also just a stem of thyme, which I leave whole for flavour. What I'm going to do is pour that into a saucepan and put it over a fry pan, place that over high heat. So I want that to come to a quick and rapid boil and reduce by 1/2. Okay, so that's why I'm using a wide pan. It will actually come quite quickly to the boil. So a reduction will then go into my egg yolks to start the whisking the emulsion. Okay, so I'm quite happy that that's reduced by 1/2 now. So I'm just going to pour that remaining reduction back into my pan. And the thyme can stay put, won't be needing that any further. So the final stage of my hollandaise sauce is actually whisking all my ingredients together and combining it now. So that is going to happen in a step-by-step process. So the first step is I'm going to put some water on to boil. I only want the water to be about 1/3 of the way up the saucepan. This is to create what's called a double boiler. Now I'm going to place my bowl, my metal bowl, over the water. Now the water must not touch the bottom. As you can see, it's quite clean, quite dry. What's actually going to cook these eggs is the steam, not the water. Okay? So I don't want it too hot. Slightly. Okay. So I'm going to put my 4 egg yolks into my bowl, along with the reduction which I have made. I'm just going to give them a whisk to combine. So that is what's called an emulsification now. So what I'm doing now over the heat, over this double boiler as it heats up, I'm going to continuously whisk this over heat until the eggs have turned pale, it's thickened, and it's actually cooked. Now I've got to be careful when whisking this not to cook it over the heat for too long. Alright, if it starts to stick to the sides, I should move it off the heat, because I do not want to actually cook the egg yolk. I don't want to create scrambled eggs. I just want to heat through the emulsion until it is thick and stable and pale. Now as you can see, I am whisking vigorously, I'm not stirring, and as I whisk, I just push down the sides and pull it off the heat. So now as I whisk that off the heat now, I'm going to gradually incorporate some of my ghee. So I put in about 3 tablespoons at a time, and then I whisk that in to combine it. I'm going to put in a touch more again. Whisk it to combine. And as you see, I'm doing this off the heat because my egg yolk and emulsion mixture thickens very quickly. And as soon as it was immediately thick, I removed it straight away from the heat. Just move that out of the way. Just going to add some more. Now you can add too much ghee to a Hollandaise sauce. That is why you only gradually add a small amount at a time. Egg yolks only hold so much fat before it'll itself start to separate. So we want a nice semi-pouring consistency. We want it thick, but we don't want it too thick that it's so very lumpy. You can of course be tempted to pour in all the ghee at once, but do not do that. That should actually do it. Okay, for seasoning, I'm just going to put a bit of pepper into that. I'm actually not going to add salt at this stage, as there will be enough vinegar in it already to make it taste quite salty. So just give that a slight taste. That's delicious. Nice and creamy. So you can see we have got a lovely Hollandaise sauce. The next step in my Benedict is wilting the spinach and cooking the ham. So I've got a little bit of clarified butter left over, so I'll just use that as my fat in my pan. So just put a tablespoon in there. And then I'm going to add 2 large handfuls of baby spinach. Now baby spinach will wilt down quite substantially, so that's why I use so much in the cooking of this. So just let that wilt down. So this is happening over a high heat. A little bit of ghee in the pan. Touch of pepper. Small sprinkle of salt. And just now just move that around the pan. See, it's already starting to wilt, shrink in size. I don't want to overcook this spinach. Overcooking the spinach will actually turn it brown. Just want to wilt it gently. Alright, that's perfect, that's enough. I'm going to put it back into my container. Okay, next I'm just going to do the same thing with my ham. Just going to warm it through. I'm not going to cook it like bacon or anything, just going to warm through the ham. So get my ham, just separate it slightly. Now, this dish is very similar to eggs Florentine. So eggs Benedict consists of spinach and ham with a Hollandaise sauce. Eggs Florentine consists of smoked salmon with the poached egg and the Hollandaise sauce on top of the spinach. So just give that a quick warm through. Very good. I'm going to put that next to my spinach. So I'm up to the last step in now making my eggs Benedict. I've cooked my ham, my spinach, I have my Hollandaise sauce ready. I'm now going to poach my eggs, and to do that I'm going to half fill a saucepan full of water and bring that to the boil. I'm going to add about 4 tablespoons of just white vinegar and allow that return to a quick simmer. Now, for Hollandaise sauce, it's a poaching method of cookery. So that is the method of cookery we're going to do today, poaching. So poaching is simmering something in a very, cooking something in a very low simmer, not a rapid boil. It's a gentle way of cooking. So what I'm going to do now is I've got those light bubbles forming, which is a gentle simmer, which is enough to cook these eggs, as eggs only cook at 60 degrees Celsius. So for my eggs, I'm just going to start a little whirlpool effect. Now, what this does is it's going to help the egg roll around in a ball and come out with a perfect poached egg shape is what we're after. So create a whirlpool, and then quite quickly take each egg and crack it gently right into the center of that whirlpool. And as you can see, it's going to spin around and really have a nice shape form. Crack the second egg in there and just let that spin around. So what we're after with a poached egg is we're after a nice cooked white part. So that's the protein that'll cook, the egg white. And we want the egg yolk to remain nice and gooey in the center. So as you can see that the egg white has actually surrounded the egg yolk, ensuring that that'll be the last part of the egg cooked. So that's why we started that whirlpool effect. So now we're just going to let that poach gently for probably about 60 to 90 seconds, okay? But you've just got to take it out and be gentle with them and judge whether or not that white has cooked enough. You don't want to pull it out too soon because no one likes a runny egg white. It's not a very appealing thing to eat. But leave it in there too long, or try and poach too many eggs in a liquid at the same time, and you'll cook that egg yolk too much, and you'll have just a hard-boiled egg, which is not what we're after. So I have a slotted spoon, which I'm going to use to scoop those eggs out, and just a dry tea towel, which I'll use to gently remove some of that poaching liquid, because I do not want to put that vinegar water onto my bread, onto my toast. It's, obviously not a nice flavour being water and vinegar. So that's coming to a nice simmer. I'm just going to turn that right down. I do not want to bring that water to an intense boil. Poaching is gently cooking in a simmering water. So just lift those eggs up. Still not quite cooked, still too, not firm enough. The egg white's not quite firm enough. Let those cook a touch longer. So while that's almost cooked, I'm just going to get my spinach and my ham. I'm going to return that to heat just gently at the back here. So just to warm that through, ready for serving. Alright, so it's very important that all elements of the dish are nice and hot when they're served. Almost done, not quite. Okay, very good. I'm pulling it out. You can see there's a good wobble with that egg, but it is held together nice and tightly. So I'm just going to roll that gently onto my dry and clean tea towel. Both of those out. Roll that gently on, so that's going to absorb any of the excess poaching liquid. Like I said, we do not want to be eating that. Okay, take all my ingredients over to the bench to now start plating up. So I'm now going to assemble my eggs Benedict, starting off by putting the ham onto my bread first. Now the ham's going to create a barrier between the spinach and the bread, so the bread won't actually go soggy, which is very important. We want the bread to be very nice and crisp when this is served. Being quite generous with the portion size. Okay, so then I add the spinach, which has not been cooked too much, so it's nice and bright and green. Just making sure all the elements of this dish sit right on top. Now, I'm just going to create a bit of a divot, a dip in the spinach. And that's where I'm going to sit my egg. Okay, a lot of people, that's a little trick that I use so that the egg doesn't roll off while carrying the dish to the table. Just create that divot there, just in the center. Okay, so finally I have my eggs. I'm just going to place my egg gently on top. Now it's very, I can tell straight away that that egg is perfectly poached. It's very soft, wobbly in the center. Then I'm going to just add a little quenelle of my Hollandaise sauce over my egg. It's very thick at the moment, but actually we're going to warm this up under the salamander, and that will actually thin out and soften that Hollandaise consistency, and it'll run and ooze. It'll ooze very well over the entire Benedict. So just be a bit generous. More on this one. Beautiful. So I'm now going to take my Benedict over to the salamander, where I'm going to place it under the heat just to let the Hollandaise sauce warm up and just to ooze and slightly caramelize on top. Only takes about 30 seconds, stay with it. It's going to bubble on top. And that is all we needed to do. So we've got a beautiful Eggs Benedict. Now I just need to plate it up. So I bring my plate forward, gently lift up each Benedict and place that onto my plate. Now I'm going to use a nice long plate. It's going to really help this look beautiful. I'm just going to get my garnish. So I've got just some chopped chives. Just sprinkle those over my plate. We'll clean up this plate in a minute. Just get some long chives as well to give a beautiful little height and texture. Help with the appearance. Over my Benedict. Remove any chives that have fallen on that rim. Once again, do not let any food go over the rim of the plate. And we have a beautiful portion of Eggs Benedict.